Hey, welcome to the show. We were supposed to be talking about the recent coaches intensive that I ran here at the gym, but the conversation got sidetracked and Paulie and I spoke about food for 25 minutes. And we're sharing that with you today because, fuck it, food's a big part of our lives and it's probably a big part of your life too. So here it is, why being a foodie ain't all gravy. Yeah, I just came back from Surrey Hills where I caught up. We revisited the gym owner's breakfast.
Who was there?
It was Mel and Sean. Lockie wasn't there because he was working today.
So Mel from Women of Train.
Yep.
And Sean from Dyakoff.
Yep. Accelerate Strength.
Accelerate Strength.
Yeah.
Cool. How was it?
It was good. None of them have gyms anymore. Which is, kind of funny. Like it was our first catch up since like a lot's changed. I guess we were all catching up pre-COVID.
Yep.
And then after COVID, as whatever, like just a lot of things like that. We did a monthly breakfast, so it kind of went out the window. But Sean sold his gym a couple of months ago. Mm-hmm. And Mel, she sold her gym like a couple of months before COVID.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, she was the first to get out. And Lockie, I mean, he wasn't there, but they sold their gym and then they've opened a new gym thing, and it's cool how shit evolves.
Was there any insights that was it that type of thing, or was it more social?
It was more social.
Yep.
Yeah, it was more of a catch up, but interesting. Interesting chat around Mel started a new business after the gym thing.
What is she doing?
She started an app called Mumly.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, which, she's telling me the story, and I won't go into it because it's not really my story to tell, but it took off, got huge, boom, 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 staff, investment, massive.
We had her on the podcast.
We did.
On Zoom, yeah?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, during COVID.
Yep.
Yeah, and
she was at the head of it all.
She was, and it became this thing, and she sort of hit a point where she had to choose balls deep, fucking internet, going to America, spending time there, investors, etc., to get to the next stage, or call it quits, do the right thing by staff, and be a mum.
Which is why she kind of left the gym in the first place, from memory, and why she wanted to. Or am I making that up? Have an app.
I don't quite recall. Yeah, I'm sure some part of that initial decision was to have more time for my family.
Yeah.
But, I think you can only imagine, right? Then you build an app, which you're I can be pretty hands off. The fucking thing, it's just another business, isn't it? It needs attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she made the call, we'll draw the line here. I'm going to go be a mum.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does she have 2 now?
Yep. She got 2. Sean's got 1.
Wow.
Everyone's doing it.
And did she sell the app? Or has she got something to do with it still?
I think it's still there somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the current situation is, but yeah, I don't believe she sold it.
Fuck.
Business, man. Yeah, it's wild, huh?
Where'd you go for breakfast, and was the breakfast good? Because that was my initial question. Okay. I wasn't asking about the people and stuff. How was it? How was the menu?
Let's get to the fucking rice and beans of the conversation.
That's right.
We went to Reuben Hills in Surrey Hills.
Okay. Yes.
Do you know it?
Yeah. I think I went there a long time ago.
Trendy spot. I would say it's past its former glory. I remember Cavi back in the film industry being like, man, have you had a coffee from Reuben Hills? And now he's got to get over there. And so I don't know, maybe it's, it's yesteryear was 15 years ago.
Yeah, we've had this big gap. We used to hang out there a lot.
Yeah.
You used to work there, and we were, still affiliated with the film industry closely.
That's right. It was okay. It was nice. I had a
probably got sold 3 times since the last time we went there.
That's right. 15 different owners.
Yeah.
It was, it was overpriced and I'm underfed. But it was nice. Still had a bit of an edge.
What'd you have?
I had a dish called huevos divorciados, which I believe huevos, eggs, divorciados, divorced, I'm assuming, something like that. Divorced eggs. It's basically 2 crispy tortillas with a fried egg on each. It's got some beans, and then it's got a fried egg, and then it's got like a salsa on top of that. One has a green salsa, the other one has a red one. So you go like this. But let's be honest. And I had like a chorizo, like half a chorizo, like
okay. Now you've
$31.
31 bones.
$31. 2 fried eggs, 2-cent tortillas, a scoop of beans, and some fucking sauce. The chorizo would have been the most,
expensive
prized item on the
Was the tortilla like a really good genuine corn one, or was it just like a flat one?
I think it was a corn one, but they'd been fried, so it was crispy.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It's kind of it was yummy, right? Like
it sounds like something you'd make at home, Joe.
It does
for $15.
Yeah,
or less.
Yeah, yeah. I would totally make something like that. But it's really funny. This you might identify with this. They got a kind of big-ish, like there's a lot of writing on their menu, and I'm always like, and you are too, always trying to eat the cool, like the interesting thing, and so the thing that's called huevos divorciados, you're like, fuck, what's that? Like that sounds cool. Let's get that. And I think probably I've been to Reuben Hills 5 times over the last decade and a half. That dish, I'm obviously not particularly satisfied with it. I fucking order it every time I go there. Every time I go, I'm looking around at the other stuff and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, give me the huevos.
Yeah.
And then you're like, it comes and you're like,
fucking hell.
2 fried eggs on toast.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, it got me.
Give it another 5 years.
Yeah. But it was a cool place.
We got to go back to you just got me thinking about Ruby's, that place that we went to.
Oh, yeah.
We got to go back there one day.
Cuz I actually went there last week.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it was when I took Monday off. I went there this week.
Oh, wow.
It was when I took Monday off after the coaches intensive, and Mies said, why don't we meet at Ruby's? And it was lovely.
Because when you used to live at Randwick, like we went there a couple of times.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
That was so good.
That's a high quality joint.
They do that kind of mix with the tortilla stuff sometimes. Yeah, I don't even remember exactly, but I remember just going, every time I drive past there, I'm like, oh, babe, hey, we're going to go there.
That's the spot.
There. That's it, yeah.
Yeah, they do the blah taco, which is the bacon. It's got scrambled eggs, bacon, avocado, tomato, and like salsa soft shell tacos.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
But on Monday I had their what do they call it? It's like breakfast roti and curry.
Yum.
So that it's coconut, that's right, coconut scrambled eggs, and then like a lentil curry, and then a freshly cooked roti.
You were talking my language.
Yeah, cuz.
So good.
Yeah, it's pretty special. Yeah, that place is mad. And so, there you're going to pay the same amount. You're going to pay like high 20s for breakfast, like for the main.
Yep. Plus coffee, yep.
But you're full.
Yeah.
Like you're like, it was premium. You wouldn't eat there like all the time, but you're like, it was a big meal.
Yeah, cool. Do they have records there?
Yeah, they got vinyl.
Yeah.
But I think when I think of that place, like I remember they won like, I don't know, Sydney Cafe of the Year or some shit like 10 years ago.
Okay.
Like it was hyped. And I remember because Nikki was, my ex was all in that scene.
Yep.
She's like, man, Ruby's won like Cafe of the Year, and they were just like killing it. It was always busy. Ed, who I used to train jiu-jitsu with, owns it. I think he still owns it. And so I feel like, and they were probably playing the vinyls and shit. I don't know if the vinyls get played anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like it too has, which I don't know. You can only imagine in a scene like the cafe scene in Sydney. It's very hard to sit at the top of that.
Yeah.
For any prolonged period of time.
Oh, fucking Sydney siders,
bruh.
You have to recreate every few years.
This is actually something interesting we're chatting about in regards to gyms, because Mel is from Canada.
Yep.
And, whatever, like between the three of us, Mel, Sean, like everyone's got like a lot of knowledge about fitness and different markets and whatnot. And we're just chatting about like F45 and the new franchise that are coming in and all the shit that's happening in our gyms. And, the general consensus, Mel's like, it's so fucking, like, it's oddly difficult to have a gym here in Sydney. We're chatting about how Orange Theory.
Yep.
I think they went bust or they closed down or something. They had a bunch of places. Yeah. And it's like, fuck, how does that happen? Like these places are successful, they're growing, they're doing the thing, and then all of a sudden they're gone. And she was like, man, I've never seen a market that's so kind of just fucking inconsistent and difficult to navigate in fitness as the one here in Australia. She was like comparing it to the States and to Canada, and she's like, if you just start a chain there, like it, you know, and it's half decent, it just keeps going.
Yep.
You know? Something, I don't know, something about the market here generally, and it wouldn't be the first person in business that I've, and it's obviously it's a bit of a cop-out, right? Like it's an easy thing to say if things aren't going great, but I've heard plenty of people like in hospitality say that, like it's very fickle here, you know?
It's a pretty privileged place, like when you think about all the luxuries that we have, you know, food's really the highlight. But also, yeah, with gyms, like we're spoilt for choice.
Yeah, yeah. You remember Lionel, my French buddy that I used to do calisthenics with?
Yeah, I do.
He would always whinge about.
Good looking too.
Good looking man. You know, beautiful accent.
Wide back.
Very wide back.
Small legs.
Small legs, yep. Naturally, like just born for Bondi Beach. But he would be like, man, when I would go to restaurants with my parents, we would go to the same restaurant that we'd go to for 15 years, you know? And he's like, no one does that here. People come and go. Like he had a restaurant. And he's like, there's no consistency. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, yeah, culturally here, you always want to go and try the new things. You kind of have staples to an extent, but I don't think any of us have like a restaurant that we fall back on year after year.
Yeah.
I don't know, do you?
I think I used to, but I think it's just the kind of story that we're sold, maybe, in whatever you want to call our system, in the free markets of the, you know, of the West here, where it's like, yeah, we have the freedoms to do whatever we want and we have choice and we should exercise. I don't know. I just think there's a more old school mentality where, you know, you stick with one thing. I don't know what it is, but it does. Maybe I'm getting older in that way as well, but there is like a big turnover of businesses, and maybe the tech age has kind of increased that speed for something new. You know, we're looking for the shiny thing and the next shiny thing, and we're impressed a lot less.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's got anything to do with it, but sometimes when I look at the kind of behaviors, you know, I was in Newtown the other day and obviously spent so much time living there for a long time, and just looking at the turnover of the shops, I'm like, what the fuck? This is crazy.
It's a whole new strip like every 12 months, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's
clams.
just interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that'll be the same. But yeah, it's just interesting.
I think, you said
can't
there
stop
about
change.
the shiny thing though. Like here it's like if you identify as a foodie, then you go to new places all the time. That's what foodies do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's your thing. Oh yeah, we drove out to a thing to get the fucking noodle thing, and yeah, you know, you have some staples, but really you always try new stuff. Whereas, I don't know, maybe the concept of, I'm thinking about like say French food culture, and I'm sure they have like there's levels to gastronomy and whatnot, but I wonder if the concept of foodie exists there.
Yeah,
and if it's more just like, no, national, like culturally as a nation, we all appreciate food.
Yes, yeah.
And that doesn't mean you have to go to, like, we just go to the place where you have nice food, like everywhere. You know, so it's almost like you're not having to flex it as much and show the world, like, look at all the different places I go to in a weekend.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe because here, like when I think of the comparison of, you know, French, one nation, you know, one strong culture that's embedded in, you know, a very long history. When you look at here, we're a melting pot of lots of different cultures. So where that, what do you call it? Is it postmodern type of society where we're a mixture of lots of different cultures and we're trying to find our identity here. So we don't really have one. So it's kind of like always in flux, and so then you got this thing where it's, you know, we're in the fucking likes and attention economy. So like that kind of happens with the food and the shops. It's just like, fuck. Whereas you go to the old country and it's like, the culture is, you know, you're practicing how much you pay homage to what we've always done.
Yeah.
You know, and then we just spend time around that together.
That's a great point. I've partially read the book The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan, which is a really good read. Highly recommend for anyone listening. But he talks about one of the dilemmas in the West is that he said when you look at the traditional food cultures of a lot of like established cultures, take France as an example, it has very clear kind of parameters that it operates within. Those parameters dictate, and you can pretty much like see this in any like,
and it knows where it came from.
European country. Yeah, it's like we have like these dishes are combined. We have the salad, then we have the protein, then we have the carbohydrate. Say, as an example, I don't actually know how the French do it. Or we eat cured meats. These are the kinds of cured meats we eat. We don't eat a meal of it. We just have a little bit with the cheese. And that's part of the pre-meal, and then the meal looks like this. And so he said it's actually quite uncommon in France, and I really don't want to speak for the French people here, but for people to have very specific intolerances. He said you don't get a lot of vegans, you don't get a lot of like people doing carnivore. It's just like everyone eats food, and it's almost like a faux pas, no pun intended, to not have something that's being served at the table. Like to be like, oh no, I don't eat.
Oh, sure.
I don't eat X. Like, oh no, I'm not into fucking potatoes. It's like we eat potatoes here. He said, and so what happens as a result of that is there are these health and there are these balances that are inbuilt in that food culture that keep people healthy. You know, like pickled vegetables or controlling the amount of carbohydrate you have or making sure there's protein at every meal, right? Making sure you're eating quite a lot of vegetables, let's say. He said, but here in the West, we don't have a food culture. So then we just take the bits that we like from these other food cultures and then kind of brutalize it to make it what we want. So you can be like, oh, Italian food, spaghetti, fucking mad. Let's just have a huge bowl of pasta.
Totally.
Right? Versus, no. The pasta is part of a meal and the entire meal looks like this.
Yes.
And you might eat that on certain days. Or,
yeah.
And I found that really fascinating.
Yeah.
Because it gave me, I've always had an appreciation for food cultures, but it gave me more of an appreciation to see where some of the tradition with those things comes from. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, it makes me want to go out to dinner now. I want to I should fucking...
Don't go to Ruben Hills.
I just want to go to like a couple, a good restaurant or something, like an Italian restaurant. Or something like that. But yeah, we're spoilt for choice here. And one thing I was chatting to Tash about the other day was, she's on this kind of diet at the moment, which, was I telling you?
I don't think so.
It's a PMS diet.
Yeah, actually you did mention.
Yeah, and it's actually not a radical diet at all. It's just a thing. It's basically whole foods, like little to no preservatives and, making sure she gets enough protein and stuff like that. But it's kind of a good little thing that she's got because it's just motivating her with some new recipes and stuff like that. But we're just talking about how, for me, one thing that one kind of paradigm shift for me when I started in the fitness industry and started becoming aware of my own health was how you perceive food. And you get it with a lot of people come into the gym, and they're trying to start their journey. But I feel like here and I'm generally, we can look at food. It's a luxury, and we look at the food based on how tasty and awesome it is. And you're not seeing it for what it is, as in, say, an energy source, which sounds very boring, but it's also very practical and a smart way to see things. So you kind of, and Tash, we were just talking about how she came from, both of her parents are chefs, and she was refusing truffles and all these foods when she was a toddler. She's like, yuck. But we would see, and when I first met Tash, and she was in the fine dining type of scene, and she was working in it. Like you're always looking at how incredible that feat of gastronomy was to put that together.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's delicate and that's rare and it's like thinly sliced squid on a little thing. And the way that you see it is kind of so divorced from what even the animal is.
Yep.
Or the plant or what it is. It's just the combination and then how it's presented. And that might be an extreme version of how we see it, but these days we don't see it for its health, the blocks of, building our bodies and how we're going to feel later that afternoon when we eat it, et cetera, et cetera. And, I think that's a really cool, we're doing personal training and having people come into the gym for their first year. A nice way to support, a paradigm shift for them is hey, seeing food as more than, a delicious meal, burgers and chips.
It's not always about enjoyment.
No, it's not. It's not. And, maybe.
But you can enjoy eating in a practical sense.
Totally.
That can become fun as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I think there's a kind of a warped view sometimes in, say Sydney.
It's so true. Yeah, I think it's you could say that line of thinking, the practical side of it is sort of reductionist, seeing food as just energy source or whatever.
Energy blocks, credits.
But I think for people who are on the foodie tip, they'd be oh, that's fucked, and I think where I find it's important to sort of acknowledge the need for that kind of eating is because if you just eat for enjoyment all the time, and you do this, right? You have those weeks where maybe you didn't prep lunches or there wasn't leftovers, and so you're at the cafe for breakfast and then lunch, and or maybe you're on holidays and you're eating out in a new city and you're eating out for 4 days straight. You don't enjoy it.
It's so true.
You go to the cafe and you're oh, let me get a fucking, I don't know, I'll take that toasted sandwich and another coffee, and it's just, right? Whereas when you're eating kind of mostly sort of plain and you've cooked it yourself and stuff, and maybe it doesn't get you super excited, but then when you go to the cafe for breakfast the next day or whatever, you're fuck yeah, cafe.
Yeah.
Epic toasted sandwich and a coffee. It makes that experience so much brighter. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of fuck it up for themselves, is that they just indulge all the time. So of course their health, there's negative effects there, but also the enjoyment is reduced.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think just from the less so about the macros of what you're eating, but also the portions and stuff like that. And I think there's a lot lost in appreciation of sustenance. When you're really hungry and you've really earned that because you've been whatever physical, you're not overindulging all the time, and maybe you worked out, or maybe you've just been quite busy, and then you sit down and you have something that you cooked at home and it's the leftovers that you heated up or you prepared it to bring to work, and when you heat it up or whatever, when you eat it, you're you really feel the sustenance coming from that good food, and on that level, we often, we're not bringing our attention to that when we're eating.
I'm thinking of you eating root crops as you say that.
Oh,
you feel the sustenance when you eat those things?
Yeah, sometimes when you eat certain foods, you can just feel it running into your blood, and you're fuck, I feel I can crush this bowl right now. Yeah.
I see that with Leo when he eats, my son.
Yeah.
When he's really in the flow of it.
Yeah.
And you're man, he's getting the nutrients right now.
Yeah, yeah. And again, for foodies, they're just what the fuck? That's so boring.
Yeah.
But they probably won't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I think whatever. Having that a little scarcity or abstinence makes things better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Fuck, let's leave it there, bro. Go get something to eat.
All right, let's go.
Catch up with you next time about a sandwich.
All right, see you.
See you.